Yo, yo, yo! What's up, everyone? Uh, I wanted to. So, I went to buy eggs the other day, and I don't go much to the egg section a lot, but there's no eggs at Costco. And you go to Walmart or one of these other Safeway or Albertsons. I live in Arizona. And they're like $7 a dozen or something crazy for the cheapest kind. So, and you hear on the news the bird flu and all this bullshit. So guys, come on. I just want to harp on deregulation because I think that is just something so basic that people don't understand, bro. And it drives me nuts. We're never going to see true change from top down. And if you don't understand that, like, that's just a huge problem. Like, centralization of power is never going to bring about the change we want on this earth. So if you don't hear from a politician, deregulate, we're going to make less rules, we're going to empower people to do what they want to do, you got to run, and you got to run from them. And I never hear from any politician, deregulate. I never say, you know what, let's just make... I actually heard it in Arizona once, but they're probably up to something, that you can have one chicken in your backyard. Probably because of this thing, but we just have to understand that deregulation, I've talked about this before in videos. Why are we subject to these laws that make absolutely no sense for humanity as a whole? Why can't we grow food in our backyard and sell it without any regulation? Why? Like, why is that a thing even? And why is no one talking about it? That's the big deal. Like, the biggest thing is, like, it's not even on anyone's radar. Like, politicians don't talk about it, and therefore people don't talk about it, because people only follow what politicians say. Oh, let's only talk about abortion. Let's only talk about foreign policy, what wars we want to get into. Let's only talk about the border. How we can stop illegal aliens coming in, or whatever, or whatever the agenda that these politicians want to set. That's the only thing people talk about. They can't in their brains just think like, dude, I think we're getting duped by these guys, whether it's red or blue. Like, we're getting duped. We're getting duped. And if you believe in red or blue, you're getting duped. Now Trump he wants to buy Greenland. I mean, just the sound of that is just so stupid. Like, so America's been preaching democracy, which obviously it never actually does in reality. But, you've been preaching democracy for 150 years. And now all of a sudden you want to go buying countries. Like, did Trump ever talk to the people of Greenland and say, like, do you guys want us to buy you? Like, do the people of Greenland matter? Does it matter what they want? I don't think it does matter to people. People just go along right with it. It's so crazy, man. Like, did Trump go to Greenland and he got a huge, parade for him and said, we welcome you, Trump. We want you to buy our country and make Greenland great again? Like, dude, this is such a, like... So even if Denmark wants to sell Greenland, like, it should be up to the Greenland people to choose. All right, sorry, my storage. So Greenland, like, did Trump go to Greenland and get standing ovations and big parades, and the people want Trump to come in and, like, buy it? So it's crazy. Like, people need to believe in self-determination, like, in their own lives and for other people too. Like, if you don't believe in self-determination, you're basically just, dude, it's just so much ignorance, man. Like, what if Colombia or Russia or anyone, I don't know, any country said, oh, we're interested in buying Arizona? Like, how ridiculous does that sound? Like, it sounds so ridiculous because the people of Arizona are going to say, fuck you, I don't want to be bought by this other government that I have no idea who they are. I don't speak their language. I don't know who these people are. Dude, it's so basic. So, yeah, it's just, and then Palestine, dude, that's just something that's so crazy that, I've already talked about this, the genocide, like a genocide's going on in front of our faces. So the self-determination of the Palestinians, let's not even talk about that. How people get brainwashed with Israel and the Bible and chosen people and all this bullshit. So the main point of this is deregulation is key. I want to just stress that in your minds and your hearts, that we have to start talking about it has to be in your awareness that deregulation is something that we should strive for politically. We have to talk about it. We have to exigirlo. We have to, bring it up. Talk about it. Why can't we do things? If we start talking about construction now and building codes, it's crazy. There's so many codes, new codes coming out that are just adding more and more red tape and more regulations and more controls that are stupid and that they shouldn't exist. And no one's talking about let's deregulate the building codes. No one. It's not even in the conversation. It's not even anyone's awareness. No one cares at all what they're doing. Now with AI, more and more what AI means is more and more control on your life, on your everything that you're doing is going to be more and more controlled by the government. And so if you believe in Trump, that's what Trump's doing. He's bringing in AI. That's his main mission, is to bring in AI, digital currency, whatever the hell's going to happen with that. But if you don't know that by now, and that he's a tool, it's crazy. So don't believe in the red or the blue. Red and blue equals royal purple. Remember that. And be safe, guys. Bye. So I have like 30 minutes of traffic here till I get to the office. Anyway, so we also have to understand, though, that we're not victims. So now a spiritual little talk. That despite all of this political turmoil and economic turmoil and everything going on in the outside world, and rumors of wars, or whatever, all of this stuff going on, we're not victims. And that's something that we have to get over, that spiritually we're not victims of any of this. Now, we obviously have to do our best to control the outside world, but our main responsibility in life is to control the inside world, not the outside world. Our first responsibility is to control our inside world. And how do we do that? The number one way is trusting in God, is believing in God in a benevolent, beautiful, amazing loving God and trusting in God and trusting that the universe is love, trusting in that. And when we trust that and we're in that spirit, when we remain in that trusting, not having to control everything out there and remaining in that good spirit, which for me it's so hard to do, like to separate business and like personal life. In personal life, I think I do a really good job at it, but in business, I kind of suck at it, because business is all about controlling, right, the outside world, and it creates a lot of stress and blah blah blah. And I think it's a lesson I have to learn. But I know what's true, at least. Like, I know that I suck at it and I have to improve, and I'm trying to improve. You know, if you don't have that awareness, it's hard to develop, to improve. So our number one objective is to control the inside world, and that will create beautiful things on the outside world. That's like spirituality 101. So when all these things are going on, all these crazy things in the outside world, we have to understand we're not victims, and God did not create us as victims. But we're always being told the opposite, and we're always being taught the opposite, that you are a victim, that you are dependent, that you are somehow subject to the outside world and the outside powers, and so therefore you have to control it. But that is not true. We are not subject to the outside world. We're subject to the inside world. And we have control over the inside world. No one else has control over the inside world. We are the masters of our ship, and we can take it wherever we want to. And that gives you power, and that gives you purpose, that gives you will. And don't ever lose that will. Will is something, what is that light? Will is something so powerful that you can never lose that will. And we must have will, and we must have love. We must have both. You must have very strong choice and very strong love. Those two things must go together. If you don't have one of, if you kind of lack in one of them, and we always teeter, like we're always kind of more loving, but then our choice goes down, and that sucks. You start becoming a victim. You know, when you feel like you can't choose, and you're just like letting everyone stampede over you. You start getting bitter, you start getting resentful. And then sometimes you go the opposite, where like you're all will, and it's my choice, and you start stampling. You start trampling over other people, right? Because you're trying to control others. And that's when your will is very high, but your love is very low. So we got to try and have high will and high love. That's kind of the challenge here, is that first your inside world, which is choice and love. You have to choose that love and choose it. And that involves trusting in God, letting go, and following that spirit all the time and having faith in it. And that's a hard process. But so despite everything that's going on in the outside world and all of the shit that we get thrown at every day, bro, like, we get so chemtrails, we get chemtrails on all the time. I live in Arizona, and we are being sprayed all the time. If you don't believe in that shit, you're crazy, bro. It is so easy to dude, I don't know. There's another thing that it drives me nuts about people that don't believe in chemtrails. Like, okay, so like today, there's not a cloud in the sky. It is a blue sky, just blue. That's it. There's nothing else. There's just blue. So some days are just blue. You can't see a plane. You can't see a plane in the sky. I live in Phoenix, in Mesa. So how is it that there's not one, they say it's exhaust, like chemtrails. The people who don't believe in it, they say, oh, that's just exhaust from planes. So how is it that some days you don't see one exhaust from one fucking plane? How is it? And then other days you see the whole sky crisscrossed with this exhaust. How can that be? Atmospheric conditions. Well, what is it? There's more planes that day out. The flights are very similar every day. I fly sometimes to Vegas or to this. You see the same flights every day. So it's not that there's less flights or more flights. Is that the difference is that they're spraying shit on you, bro. Now, can they be spraying anything good? No, they can't be spraying anything good. If they're spraying shit out of an airplane onto people or onto land, it's not anything good, because nature's good. And if we're adding stuff to the air, to the land, whatever they're doing, I don't know what it is. I don't really know what it is. There's a lot of theories out there about chemtrails, but it can't be anything good. And so people, it just makes me laugh because people are so stupid, bro. When I see blue skies all day, I tell some people, I'm like, hey, you know what? There's a what is it, FAA or whatever, Federal Aviation. They grounded all the planes today. Look, there's no exhaust. There's nothing, So anyway, all the shit we get thrown, chemtrails, our water, it's all fucked up. Our food, don't even start with food, man. Our food's all poisoned. Just everything. The healthcare is crazy. Just after reading that book, The Truth About Contagion, it's crazy. If you want to read that book, The Truth About Contagion, it just turns everything upside down of what science teaches and what they believe, and that basically contagion, there's no contagious diseases. That's what it says. There's no contagious diseases, and you can't be contagious. You can't transmit a disease to someone else, and that it's all due to the environmental toxins or environmental things that make you sick, and it's not like from another person. So, and it makes a lot of sense. I don't know if I 100% believe it, but it makes so much sense, more sense than the contagion. And whenever you see media push something so much, it's not true. That's just, and media pushes for years, viruses and contagious, and people are dangerous, and stay away from people, and you better not go near people because they're dangerous. People are dangerous. People are very dangerous, guys. Don't trust your neighbor. Don't trust. And that's always the narrative from the big, powerful media companies and the people who own them. So we have a battle ahead. We have a spiritual battle ahead. But the good news about this spiritual battle ahead is that when we're in control of our internal world, which we have the right, that is your right. Don't ever let anyone take that right away from you. Don't let anyone do that. You are in control of your inside world. They can be torturing you. They can be putting you in jail. They can be fucking with you. They can be raping you. They can be doing all sorts of evil shit to you, but you are in control of your inside world, because it's your inside world. It's your soul. It's not anyone else's soul. And when you have that power and you execute that power, you become free. But don't let anyone take that away from you. And so when we face evil with evil, we are letting them take control of our soul. And when you... Alright, so yeah, don't ever let anyone take that away from you, man. That's yours. Your soul is yours. It's your possession. It's your control. And that's your right. So I've talked about this before, but that is your God-given right. Is that you decide what's going on in your soul. You decide what thoughts are in your soul, and you decide what emotions, and you decide what spirit you're going to remain in. And that's your choice. And that gives you unlimited power. Not over others, but over your own domain. And that's what we seek in this world, is to control our own domain and to seek beautiful states of being within our own domain, despite being surrounded by anything, atrocities or anything. And then once you start believing in that and exercising that, you can start to create and be an influence over your environment. And that's something that I got to work on a lot, and we all got to work on a lot. So we're not victims, guys, despite all of this bullshit going on. And another thing I want to kind of bring out is the idea that how does this information get propagated? So why don't people see things that they should be seeing? Like when you look outside into reality, why don't people see what's actually going on? Like let's say 9/11 or any of these like conspiracies that are true, or like chemtrails. Like just as a clear example, like you can see clearly like what's going on. They're spraying stuff on us or something, right? But you don't see it. But why don't you see it? Like, why don't people want to see it? Or why don't they choose to see it? Or maybe it's something conscious. Maybe it's something subconscious in their brain that prevents them from seeing it. So they used to say that there would be ships. This are old stories. I don't know if they're true, but they would say like that there were ships that would come like in the Spanish colonial times. There'd be ships on the horizon, but like the natives wouldn't be able to see the ships because it was so outside of their realm of like possibilities that they couldn't even see what was actually there. Like there were ships on the horizon, but since they'd never seen a ship and they didn't really believe in like the possibility of that existing, they just couldn't see it. So their eyes were kind of shut to what was real. And so why are people's eyes shut to what is real? Why does that happen? And how does that happen? So the reason why that happens is because if you think that the outside world has control and influence over your soul, and you live in fear, and you live in survival mode, and you live in scarcity mode, and you live in, everything that implies, that you have to control the outside world, that we are subject to the control of the outside world for somehow our survival, which is bullshit because our souls are eternal. So we're surviving anyway, no matter what happens. Like there's no survival. Like we know where we're going when we die anyway, bro. So it's like we're going to some place that is beyond our imagination, something that's so beautiful. But anyway, when you live in that scarcity mode, in that survival mode, and you're subject to all these evil things in the outside world, and you have to control them, and you have to when you're fighting for survival on a daily basis, you can't see. Your brain does not allow you to see what's actually there, especially evil shit. Your brain, when it's in survival mode, will not allow you to see evil shit because you don't want to believe them. You don't want to believe they're true, because if they are true, that puts your survival even more, it puts you even more in danger than you already are. And you don't want that, so you don't want to believe it, even if it's true. So you choose not to believe it because you're in this survival mode and you're like, dude, if I believe that, I'm fucked pretty much. So that happens a lot. Like people in survival mode in their subconscious brain doesn't allow them to see what is actually happening, especially evil stuff that's happening, because then they wouldn't be able to handle the reality of that. And the reality is that we are the level of governments and they pretty much have power. They can do anything they want, and they do everything they want in this realm. And so, like, we're not safe. You're not safe. No one's safe. I could be killed today. Anyone could be killed today, and no one will even notice. No one will know. Any. But if you live in the spiritual world and you believe in the spiritual world and your reality exists in that spiritual world, in this realm, then it doesn't matter. And so if it doesn't matter and we're free of that fear, then we can see what is actually there. And what is actually there, a lot of times, is not pleasant to see. And so that's one of the main reasons why people can't see what's actually there, or they shut down and they don't want to look into things more. Because a lot of times they just don't want to know. They're like, no. Like, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. It's not good for me psychologically and emotionally. And another reason is that a lot of their whole worldview needs to change. So if you're in a certain worldview with certain friends and certain family members, and everyone has this kind of similar worldview and culture, some people just don't want to leave that reality, and so they also shut down to the facts or to what's real, what's really out there. So in order to see what's really out there, you have to be totally in tune with the spiritual reality, which is that only love exists. If you're in tune with the spiritual reality, like the realness of what is out there and inside, and the truth, the reality of what's outside and inside is that only love exists. That's the ultimate reality. And if you understand that, and you can see that internally and externally, then you start to see things that you never saw before that are real. And that's the ultimate reality. And that's where you can see that evil, the secret teaching behind evil is that evil is trying to love, and they're trying to do things. They're trying to go to the same place we all want to go. We all want to return back to this place that's real. And so, if you want to see what's real, you have to start with letting go, trusting God, and knowing what's real. And what is real is that love is the only force that moves everything. It is the underlying force that moves everything. And love is just a word we use. Our language can't describe, but if you don't like the word love, it's fine. But use a word that describes the most amazing, compassionate, beautiful, harmonious, peaceful feeling you've ever felt in your whole entire life, and multiply that by 1,000,000,000 times, and that's the word we're looking for. So whatever word that is, you can make up your own word, blah 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 blah, or jugulugu. But love is kind of unconditional love is kind of the closest word we can find to what that is. And we've all felt that before. I don't know if we've all felt it, but I think most of us have felt it in one time or another. And that's what the reality is of everything. Despite all these horrors that are going on around us, underneath the horrors, that energy exists. And that's so hard to understand, and it's so hard to see. And that's where faith comes in, and trusting in God, and trusting in the universe, and trusting that reality exists, and it's behind everything that's out there. So that's the spiritual. It's kind of weird that the more you go down the rabbit hole of spirituality, and the more closer you get to that spiritual essence of what's real in the universe, you also see more and more evil. But the evil, you also see the reality of this very intense evil, which is underneath it is love also. So it's crazy, man. So bye.